We are Cal and Chip, and our podcast, of course, is the Fellas Podcast, and it is sponsored by new movie The Long Walk, only in cinemas from September 12th. Right, listen to this. You're on a road, no end in sight, 50 boys in a non-stop marathon where there can only be one winner, and the only rule, stop walking, you're done.
We just watched the trailer, and brother, it's mad. Like, really scary.
It's called The Long Walk. Dystopian, ruthless, one road, no finish line. You either walk or you die. The cast is stacked. BAFTA rising star David Johnson, Cooper Hoffman, Mark Hamill, big performances.
How far could you go for your ticket to freedom? Could you go the distance?
Walk or die. One road, no finish line. Watch The Long Walk exclusively in cinemas September 12th.
Are you a lifelong fan of General Hospital? Are you a new fan who wants to know more about the history of the show?
Do you enjoy talking about the show with others?
Do you find yourself yelling at the TV?
Is your self-care an hour a day in Port Charles?
If so, we invite you to join hosts
Amanda Kimmel
and Shannon Coach at the place where all the hidden conversations take place and secrets are revealed.
Meet us at Pier 54,
a General Hospital fan podcast.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to the General Hospital recap for October 7th through 11th. Ooh, we got a lot to talk about this week. We got 2 emails for the Port Charles pipeline. Spunky Lunky. From our friend Kimberly. Hello, ladies. Just wanted to let you know how much I am enjoying your Lucky and Liz 411s. Such well-written, fully formed stories that I remember vividly all these many, many years later. That is 100% shout out to Curly Q Girl. I think that I'm pretty darn sure that we give her a shout out every single time, but if we do not,
She's
it is
amazing.
not us. It is, yes. But I especially love listening to you laugh and joke on the podcast. Aww. It has been a really stressful time, and you guys provide a great break from the stress of the news, weather, and just life in general. Keep up the amazing work.
Aww.
Are we somebody's stress relief?
That
Oh my
is so
gosh.
sweet.
Well, thank you, Kimberly, and good luck with everything that you have going on. Hope it goes, don't know what it is, but we get
Hopefully
it.
life is less stressful soon.
Yes. And then from Heather, it just says Lucky. Hello, gals. So I'm sitting here watching Monday's episode, and I keep welling up with tears watching Lucky and Aiden, and also Lucas seeing Wiley. I'm thinking, what's wrong with me? Then I remember back in the day when Lucky, quote, died in the fire. You remember? Well, I'd come home from school every day to watch GH, and when he died, I broke. I cried my eyes out. After that, I started crying at commercials, any stupid thing. That's when I love this next line. That's when my friend and I realized that GH had messed us up with that whole storyline. We both became blubbering fools. Do you feel the same? I hope that doesn't happen to us again. Love that, Lucky. Have a great day, Heather. I know that there was a long time that you're going to be shocked by this, but I did not cry.
What?
And
I don't believe it.
it was when I was a teenager, when a lot of stuff happened in a very short amount of time. I just became very, very numb. And I don't know what actually broke me, but something did.
Having the kids, maybe that makes you more emotional.
That's what I'm thinking. But I actually didn't cry when I had my kids. I cried when all my friends had their kids. I didn't cry at my own wedding. I cry at other people's weddings.
I agree. I did not cry when I had any of my kids. I did not cry at my wedding. I cried at my divorce.
Aw. Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, I definitely agree that there are definitely some times on the show that I'm trying to remember. I honestly don't remember if I broke down like that when Lucky died.
I don't think I did. I mean, I was upset, obviously, but I don't think I actually.
Oh, spoiler alert. If you don't know anything about Lucky, I think that they've referenced it before, though. So, yeah, we're going to be getting into it in our 411s. We're definitely not there yet, but I'm sorry.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler.
Really
it happened 20-something years ago. No, but I get it. I really don't remember, but I understand what she's saying. Yeah.
I just love that we have all these GH friends that are going through remembering the same as we are. They were like close to the same age we were at the time. So everyone was in love with Lucky and Liz, and had this emotional connection with us.
Yep. And that's what, I mean, we know that we have fans that have been watching longer and remember things differently. And, they were probably upset that Lucky even exists because that shouldn't have been possible and stuff like that. But I do feel like you said, a lot of our fans tend to be closer to at least started watching when we did. So even if they're not in the same age, like they remember. I mean, and this is, we talk about this too, like Jagger and Karen were your first storyline. And of course you love Lucky and Liz, but like this was my first storyline, was the first thing that I really remember. So we're going to be continuing Lucky and Liz this week. I've been enjoying it. I have. And we haven't even been rewatching it, or I haven't.
Right.
So
they've been doing good with the flashbacks, though, to help us.
Yes. I was going to say that when we got there later on, that they've been doing a really good job of, you're going to notice a difference in the character when there are recasts. And one time when they brought back this Lucky, I feel like this Lucky, we are getting who we were introduced to, who we fell in love with.
Absolutely.
And all the struggles that it's like, I don't want him to come full circle because the circle's not ending.
Right.
Oh, like the Girl Scouts say. It has no end. So, okay, Lucky can come full circle because he'll have no end.
There you go.
That's how. Anyway. Join us on Thursday as we can, continue talking about Lucky and Liz. But then this week for Hulu headlines, on Monday, Lucas visits Bobby's grave. Holly encounters Brennan. Robert makes a promise. Lois is unnerved. Can we get these people a thesaurus? I don't feel like unnerved is the right. I feel like touched, overwhelmed, even heartbroken,
Right.
Something. Chase and Brook Lynn are in for a shock. On Tuesday, Robert and Holly get reacquainted. They see each other. They're not reacquainting. They know everything. They are acquainted.
Right.
They know everything about each other, even when they go years without seeing each other. Sam goes to see Alexis. Elizabeth fears for Lucky. Anna cautions Brennan, and Mac gives his 2 cents. On Wednesday, Laura returns. Guys,
right?
Stop it with these. Stop including these.
Yep.
Anna and we knew she was coming back, obviously, but still. Anna and Jason clear the air. Carly meets with Brennan. Lucky seeks assistance, and Sonny briefs Christina. On Thursday, Lucky and Laura have an emotional reunion, especially when she came at the last 2 seconds.
Right.
Dante is hopeful. Sonny issues orders to Diane. Michael runs interference, and Jason is reluctant. And on Friday, Sonny makes a big decision. Anna questions Carly. Brad confides in Cody. We're just making Brad dumb now.
Right.
And Martin and Alexis strategize. And Ava has an unpleasant run-in.
It was not unpleasant. I mean, it was okay. Whatever. We'll get there.
I would say uncomfortable, because I would say uncomfortable. Okay, so where do you want to start?
Oh, jeez, I don't even know. This week was so whatever. No matter how much I watch the show, I just want to keep talking about how much I hate Portia right now. Like, you messed up the results. Then Liz gets served with papers, and you're all in the business of that. She tells you what's going on, and then you're so upset with yourself that you're yelling at Brad for hugging people. What?
Well, she yelled at him for hugging before she knew about the court order.
Oh, because
that was okay. Yes, because he had seen Cody. So, this isn't going to ruin anything.
Well, everyone's getting tested. That's a good thing. So,
right, yeah. So everyone's getting tested. He and Cody, Brad and Cody catch up a little bit. They did talk about Ms. Wu, which I was not happy with because Cody said, what happened to working for your aunt? And Brad's like, I'm not good for her business. And she finally realized it, which that doesn't mean that we can't have Selena. Hello.
Right.
Seriously, Selena would be so awesome in this whole Sonny Christina storyline.
Yes.
why did we keep her out of this? Because this is when the 5 families would actually be coming together.
She should have definitely been part of it.
And then they talk about the fact that like Brad's back, and he's like, oh yeah, by the way, I heard you're Max Scorpio's son, blah, blah, blah. And Cody's like, yeah, which is great because he's kind of the greatest guy I know. And he forgave me and all this stuff. And Brad's like, well, Lucas is the greatest guy I know. He's going to forgive me. Thank you. And hugs Cody like he's an idiot.
Right. Right.
Brad is fully, and Lucas literally just went to him last week and said, dude, we are only talking about work. We are only going to talk at work about work. That's it.
Yep.
I didn't like seeing Brad like that. But so he hugged him, and then Portia walked around the corner and was like, Brad, is that really appropriate work behavior? And
because she's never hugged Liz in the hallway.
Right.
Or any of the other nurses that have like had a bad day. He wasn't like making out with him. He was hugging him like just 2 friends hug.
Well, and it's not like Cody was actually his patient. So I could understand that, like if it's a medical professional not hugging a patient, because that's kind of crossing the line. No, it was 2 friends catching up, whatever.
Right.
And so Brad kind of feels like he has to get on the defensive with her. And she's like, don't forget you're on probation. And he's like, yeah, I need to know that he's like, I know I need to prove that I still should have this job, all those things. And she's like, if you can. And then he's like, oh, by the way, I heard, the lab's getting slammed. I'm more than happy to work more hours. And she's like, no, that's fine.
Right. We're not trying to save a patient's life or anything. So no, we don't want you running extra tests.
But then that's when, I think it was like right after she left Brad, is when she went to see Liz and said, hey, I heard we got a court order. And Liz had already given the paperwork to Brad to run. And she was like, hey, I need you to look into this. So obviously Liz isn't thinking Brad had anything to do with this.
Right.
Liz is like, well, Rick had that blood work done here and it showed that Heather's levels hadn't changed. And Portia's like, yeah, okay, fine.
I know. She was like, good. And then Liz is like, yeah, except for they run it 3 other places just to make sure. Okay,
and Portia's like, it's okay. It was a mistake in our lab.
Right.
And Liz is like, nope, Rick is trying to prove that there's something wrong in our lab.
I know that medical and police work do not go hand in hand, but I feel like things from being around that. Like, you would know by now, she's the co-chief of staff. You would know by now that when a prison case or police case is having blood work done, that they're not only running it at one lab. And you would be smart enough to not tamper with those results.
Right. I agree. But she seems to be a little bit shocked by this.
Right.
But she's playing it cool. And then I am surprised that Liz didn't pick up on how
invested.
Yes, that's a good word. Because Portia was like, well, why don't they just drop it? It was a mistake. And Liz is like, because if this was wrong, that challenges the integrity of our lab. And then they're going to look back at how many other cases were possibly false convictions, or not even false, but had inaccurate lab information in them because of these lab. That happened in Massachusetts. And I think it was 2 labs in Massachusetts that they were doctoring it was on Netflix. It's The Pharmacist.
Oh, I'll check it out.
It's a couple years old. Hold on, let me find it. No, okay, it wasn't The Pharmacist. Who was it? It was Massachusetts Lab Scandal. Oh, it's actually called How to Fix a Drug Scandal. Sorry. I watch too much true crime. But it's from 2020. And it was 2 drug lab chemists shocking crimes cripple a state's judicial system and blur the lines of justice for lawyers, officials, and thousands of inmates. Yeah. So like if they start to challenge this stuff, guilty people, yes, innocent people will be free, but guilty people might also be because of improper processing. So then we see, and Liz tells her, oh, it's okay, I'm taking care of it. She does not tell Portia, I gave it to Brad.
Right.
Because Brad's not the lab head. Oh, that was the other thing, was that Portia, I don't think it was during that time. It was earlier in the week, maybe, that or was it after the hug, that Portia was like, have you had any trouble with Brad? And Liz is like, no, he really knows his stuff. Yeah.
It was before that because, she asked him, or she asked Liz, and Liz was like, I know you hate to hear this, but no, he's been perfect. Like, there's nothing I can complain about.
Right. So then Liz tells her she's taking care of the court order. So I don't blame Portia for not asking, well, who do you have handling? Because I would automatically think the head of the lab is the one who would be handling it. But then we see Brad with the paper studying the computer. Also, come on. Everyone knows that you can track something, who logged onto a computer, who, whatever, because he looks down and wonders aloud, Dr. Portia Robinson, what have you been up to?
Mm-hmm. Right. Every time that you log into a secure system, it puts down that it was you and what time it was and like what changes were made. So I'm not sure how she thought she was just going to get away with this. Again, I understand being so angry that you're not thinking straight. But this was not just like a one-time heat of the moment thing. She keeps messing up repeatedly when it comes to this Heather stuff. And you're supposed to be a very smart woman. Why are you not sitting and thinking this stuff through?
And she has a lot of people basically reminding her of that.
Right.
You know, she's not being super quiet about her disdain for Brad or for Heather.
Right.
I mean, Ava already picked it up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, did that happen last? Yeah, that happened last week.
That was last week, yeah.
So,
and the thing is that Trina is like the smartest person of all. It is not going to take more than a second for her to be like, stop trying to blame Brad for something that you obviously did.
Right. It's crazy.
Just dumb.
So, okay, let's get done as much as we can outside of what we really want to talk about.
Okay.
We'll do the reverse of what we did last week. I mean, that really doesn't take us anywhere. That was also done at the end of the week.
Well, Brad mentioned Lucas being back, which we saw last week, but we got to see more of Lucas this week whenever he ran into Willow at Bobby's. That was heartbreaking. Yep. That was sad.
Especially where there wasn't even like a heads up.
Right. But I did like that Michael was like, no, we need to tell Wiley about this. And Wiley, in typical kid form, was like, okay, can we go on about our day now? Like, who cares? But I'm glad that they mentioned it so that hopefully they can form a relationship because Lucas was a good dad and he'll be a great uncle.
Well, and especially, they didn't even, technically he is like his great uncle Lucas. So, and there's absolutely no reason for Willow to even try to hide that. But the first thing she said, she's like, this is your great uncle Lucas. And he's like, I have a great uncle. That's amazing. And then he introduces himself to him. And then Michael comes in and he's like, Dad, that's my great uncle Lucas. And Michael's like, yeah, so that's actually my uncle. That is how Erica and I are. And people kind of look like, wait, what?
Right.
And so then I guess Wiley had been telling him, they're going on the boat ride and all that. And Wiley asked him to go with them.
Yes.
And then, Maxie had come in with Michael and was kind of giving Lucas a hard time. Like, hey, you didn't even tell me that you were coming in to town. Like, what are you doing here? And so then Lucas gets upset and leaves. Well, he held it together while he was there, but said,
yes,
I actually have somewhere I have to go, so I won't be able to go on the boat ride, but thank you. I'll see you. And then Willow told Wiley to go get some cookies. And Michael said, none with bananas because they're bad luck on a boat. And I have never heard this. Have you heard this?
I have never heard this either. And I like that Willow clarified and was like, I think that's just actual bananas. And he's like, no, we're not going to take any chances.
So as a future boat owner, I felt the need to look this up. And it says, according to MontereyBayBoats.com, no bananas on board behind the superstition. And this is from an article in 2016. Pretty much every article I found said the same thing. So if there's something wrong in here that you know about, if you are a boater and there's something being left out of here, let us know. But it says, if you're a boater, there's a good chance you've been told never to bring any bananas on board with you or risk misfortune on your next fishing trip. So I'm really glad that I know this because I love bananas and I would definitely bring them with me as a snack. So, but have you ever wondered why this superstition is in place and whether or not there's any truth to it? In today's blog, we will explore a few of the most popular theories behind this classic superstition. First, it's dangerous cargo. The banana superstition dates all the way back to the 1700s, when many lost or ill-fated ships were noted to have been carrying bananas to their destination. It's perhaps because of this occurrence that the bananas became known as dangerous, as omens of danger and misfortune for ships. Too fast for fish. Another big and perhaps more plausible theory is that bananas led to the lack of catches for fishermen on boats hauling bananas, because these boats were moving at high speeds in order to reach their destination before the bananas spoiled. They didn't offer the fishermen enough time to land the catch they were waiting for. Why wouldn't you just fish on the way back then?
Right.
But whatever. Spoiled fruit. Bananas were a source of bad luck for ships carrying other types of fruit as well. Bananas give off ethylene gas, which causes other fruits to ripen and thus spoil more quickly than they would otherwise. This unintended result might be a source of concern for ships looking to turn a profit on fresh fruits. Mm-hmm. Incidentally, you can see the science behind this theory in action. Just put a fruit that needs to ripen into a paper bag with banana, and it will speed up the process so you can enjoy the fruit faster. This is now making me question my fruit tier basket thing, that I have bananas on that I put other fruits.
That's how fruit basket thingies are made. There's the hangy do for the bananas, and then you put all the other fruit underneath. You're ruining your other fruit. That's awful.
I know. I'm so glad that Michael said this. Unwanted stowaways. Many boaters, both those of yesteryear and today's modern times, would fear unwanted stowaways like venomous spiders, snakes, and other critters who could be lurking in the bananas. Those who had heard tales of boaters being bitten by these venomous creatures would naturally be hesitant to bring a bunch of bananas on board, even if the incidents were not widespread. Then there's the slippery peels, which the cartoons have made famous. Do they still put that in cartoons? I hope so.
It's definitely still in all the Mario games.
Okay. Boaters might have feared potential accidents that could occur when their crew slipped on old banana peels left on board. If this were to happen, it makes sense that overly cautious boaters would avoid bringing bananas on board. And then also fish repellent. Due to their sweet scent and the stickiness they would leave on one's hands, bananas may have been blacklisted from boats by fishermen who were scared that these traits would scare off fish from being caught. So what do you think? Is the banana rule just a silly superstition, or is it something you follow devoutly on your boat?
Okay, I'm okay with like all of those answers, except for the banana peel one. Like, do people really just walk around eating bananas, throwing the peels on the ground like all the time, and then someone else walks up and is like, "Whoa! I just fell over the banana peel." Like, I've never had that happen in my entire life. I've never witnessed that in real life. I know I'm not a banana lover, but I mean, people I know eat bananas. I have never seen them just throw the peel on the ground. Like,
I have never. And I mean, what fruit peel would not be slippery?
Right. If I dropped a grape on the ground and stepped on it, it would be all smushy and wet, and I may slip on that as well.
I think it's more likely, at least, when you're baking in the kitchen and you're peeling apples, that a small slice of apple peel would fall to the ground without you seeing it. And, if you have some ceramic tile, you do like a little slip.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that'd be more.
I'm going to start.
Banana peel is way too big.
I'm going to start peeling bananas and just throwing the peels everywhere and seeing how many funny videos I can get, because apparently this is like a big problem somewhere.
But yes, so apparently that is an issue for boats, is don't have bananas on it. So that's good to know. But then where Lucas went was to Bobby's grave, and Maxie wound up finding him. And, he said that he had to leave Port Charles to be able to basically cleanse himself. Like, I feel like it was probably almost like a life detox, that he had to make sure that he was not going to be around. He wouldn't have been able to do the immediate, I can't be Wiley's father.
Right.
But he's so happy of how big he is and how secure he is. And I loved that, that, he feels happiness for the fact that Wiley is not just a happy kid, but he's obviously very secure, and that, they're all in a good place and he's being well taken care of. they just catch up and, she tells him that she's back with Spinelli forever.
Exactly. She was like, for good and for real this time. And I was like,
Yes.
That's what I want to hear.
Yeah. And then they just talk about, how much they missed each other and blah, 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 blah. But then, back at Bobby's, Wiley has his headphones on and Willow's telling Michael, hey, we're going to have to talk about when do we tell this to Wiley? And Michael was like, right now.
Yep.
And so I love how they shared it, though, that, before you were able to come home to us, Uncle Lucas took care of you and he loved you and, he fed you and he took care of you. And that's the exact right, accurate explanation. There's nothing to hide there. But then Willow mentions about how, technically Michael didn't have to share Wiley with her. And, I loved the thing that they said that what Lucas did makes him very special to their family.
Yes.
And then that's when he was just like, can we just go on the boat now? He's like, that's great. Can we go?
Cool story, bro. Let's go on the boat.
Right.
Oh, that's funny.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think what else happened not related to the story that we want to talk about. Oh, you can stick with Lucas. He ran into Ava, and it threw me off at first. I know that he's Julian's, but whenever she first was like, Lucas, you didn't even tell me that you were in town. Why wouldn't you want to see your aunt? I was like, wait, how is she his aunt? And then I was like, oh, that's right.
Well, and he called her Aunt Ava. And I'm like, when did he ever call her that?
Yeah, I think he was just saying it like in a sarcastic, jerky way, even though it's technically true. And then Carly kept putting her nose in, and finally he was like, all right, Carly, can you just go away for a minute because I want to talk to her. And I loved the fact that the reason he was mad was not anything to do with all the Carly crap or any other bad stories. He was like, what are you doing outing someone? I cannot respect you for that. And then she had her explanation of, I thought it would help with the case of Sonny, blah, 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 blah. And so they were able to like kind of move past that and share some good memories of Julian. And it seems like they may actually end up having a relationship now. But yeah, I really loved that he wasn't just like, well, I'm mad because of this with Carly or Sonny or whatever. He was like, you crossed a line trying to out Blaze.
Right. And I like that she basically owned that it did not work out the way that she thought it was, because she was trying to show that Sonny was not keeping good company. And, he was threatening to take Avery away from her. And she thought that if she exposed Natalia for the bigot that she is, that, that would not show Sonny in a good light and all that stuff. And she told him the truth, but didn't really say, and I stand behind that. She's like, yeah, that didn't exactly work out the way that I thought it was going to.
Right.
And then I loved when he said something about, not all my memories of Julian are bad. And she's like, can you share one with me? Because no one really has anything positive to say about Julian. And then he talked about how happy he was and how proud he was to be his best man when he married Alexis. And Ava was like, wait a second. No, like that is not, no, like his entire relationship with Alexis is why he did all the bad things that he did.
And Lucas was like, no, not really. You can't blame all that on Alexis. He was happy when he married her.
Right. And she said something about how, I forget exactly what she said, but, she does tell him, I do love you. You're Julian's son. I love you. And, I hate to think that you have so much family that you can just throw away your father's. And he said, well, I've never throw away Avery. And then he says, or her mom, and just kind of like gives like a little, like a soft smile and leaves. So I liked that. I am really glad that when he went to visit Bobby's, that I was going to lose it if they re-shot the last time we saw Lucas with BJ saying,
oh yeah,
champ. I was not going to be okay with that.
Yes.
And they did not do it. So thank you. So how about we don't do any of that, because Ryan Karn's coming back for Bobby's funeral was not only General Hospital storyline appropriate, I feel like that was Ryan Carnes and Jackie Zeman's relationship
Right.
appropriate. So if we could just not do that,
Yes.
that'd be great. Thanks.
Sounds good. Just keep it how it is. Keep moving along.
Yep, exactly. It's going to take me a while. I do think I'll be able to come around to this guy.
I like him. I just feel like they have changed his behaviors so much. And so I like the character now. It's just that they didn't match him up. And that's hard to get used to. Like,
Right.
He's way more open with his feelings and way more talkative than original Lucas was.
Yeah. I mean, we always see some kind of a character change with them. It's just, I really need to know why we brought him back. Because if we just brought him back just to bring him into these storylines, then...
Right. He definitely is going to have his own something.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, why isn't he getting tested?
Maybe this will be him and Brad getting back together.
Not that he can't. Wow. In my own head, I forgot that he's actually not biologically a Spencer.
Right.
Okay. Never mind.
Oh my gosh, what was I going to say? Oh, I think that this will be for him and Brad to get back together, because I think they're going to try to push that Brad messed up Heather's results, and Brad is going to be like, no, look here again, here's the timestamps, like I wasn't even in that day, blah 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 blah. And that then Lucas is going to see that just like he has changed, that Brad has changed, and then they can get back together, because they were so cute together. They were so happy.
Well, I think that I was kind of thinking along the same wavelengths, except for I think that it's going to be Lucas winds up defending him and like really going to bat for him. But I don't really feel like Lucas had anything to change other than he had to heal.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what actually happens, because they do keep mentioning their relationship, which makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. What else?
I think everything else is revolving around Jagger's death or Lulu.
No, Violet.
Oh, yeah.
She was writing her letter to her dad.
Yes. And Tracy came in and was like, yeah, you should tell him, but don't focus on it. Like, just tell that boy, I don't have time for you. I did think, though, I got what they were doing and it was very cute or whatever, but I'm sorry. A child who has not been exposed to French before does not pick up that line. Like, she repeated it back the first time. She didn't even stumble over it once. And I'm like, no, not even just a child, but a person in general. Like, I can't repeat it. Nope.
And she had the cadence and she had, yeah. But I was so proud of myself because I knew exactly what it was that they said.
Oh, good job.
I was like,
good job.
I'm like, that is a really cute way of saying I don't have time for you. I'm like, I like it.
Very good. But yeah, she said it like, of course I know how to speak French. I'm like, no.
Je n'ai pas de temps pour toi.
Yes.
For those that do not know, Jophia Love is, I believe, fluent in French.
Yeah, she'd have to be, because isn't her family originally from France? Her parents perform in France. Like, when they have time off, they're always back in France.
Yes. So I believe that she is fluent.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, I just thought it was funny that she didn't even have to repeat it a second time. Shoot, Violet was just like, oh yeah,
je n'ai pas, like, or say something like je n'ai. I don't know. I feel like that's an easy one. I know what you're saying, but I'm saying it's, what else does it sound like? It's not like in Friends when Joey was trying to learn French and just really messing it up. Or she didn't really even ask what that meant either. Tracy, I think, just said it, but I did like that. I did like that Tracy talked to her first about the alcoholism.
Yes.
Or no. It was first, it's okay for you to get upset, but it's not okay to get violent.
Mm-hmm.
And, Tracy is someone who does not back down very easily. So for her to, although I really feel like we've never really seen, Tracy doesn't fight like that.
Nope.
But then Violet asks her if when her dad was on the floor, when Tracy came over, is that what drunk is? And Tracy spoke to her about how he has an illness called alcoholism, and some people can have like a glass of wine or a beer or whatever, and they'll be fine. But other people, it's a problem, and her dad has a problem, and he's at a special hospital. And Violet's like, okay, but if he knows it's bad for him, then why can't he just stop? And she's like, it's not that easy. He has to teach himself that he can't have it. And Violet was like, does it take a long time to learn? And Tracy said, well, sometimes it does. And Violet just said, well, then I hope he's gone for a long time so it sticks.
Yep.
And Tracy just reminded her that Finn loves her very, very much, and he is working very hard. And then that's when she spoke to Violet about how basically her punching Garth gave him exactly what he wanted. He wanted to upset her, and her reaction showed that he did.
Yep.
So then she immediately leaves, though, after she teaches Violet her French phrase, and goes and calls Diane. And then that's the thing. But this is where when they said Lois, what was it? Lois is unnerved. Gio winds up coming into the kitchen and Violet's there. And he's like, oh my gosh, Violet, Tracy is out in the hallway right now. Like, do you know what's going on? She is mad. And Violet just says, well, it has to do with me. I had this happen at school and, I shouldn't have done it. And he's like, in my family, we would have been congratulating you. But,
right.
But then Gio asks, do you miss your dad? And he says that he understands because he misses his mom every day. And that's the thing. That's what Lois was about to come in the kitchen. And then she heard Gio and Violet talking about something that only the two of them can really share. And, I feel like maybe Gio doesn't really talk about this with the Sorellos.
Right.
And, Violet asked him, does it get easier? And he said, no. Does it get better? And he said, no, it gets easier though. And then he said something, but in the meantime, you have the full love of this great family around you. You're living with all these people. And she said, but it's not the same. And he's like, I know nothing ever replaces the love of a parent.
Yes. And that's whenever Tracy walks up behind Lois and is like, what are you doing? Why are you eavesdropping? And Lois was like, shut up. I was trying to not interrupt the moment. I wasn't eavesdropping.
Right. And it's, yeah. But then at the same time, Brook Lynn and Chase were meeting with the principal, and I guess the student has been an issue in the past and they're working through it. But, he's more concerned about how Violet's doing. She's not as social as she typically is. And they really ask, do you think therapy would help?
Right.
Therapy always helps. She should have been in therapy a long time ago.
I agree.
But the principal's like, well, that's never a bad idea. But, they're talking about coming together and forming a plan for Violet to help her get back on track and get through the rest of the year. And as they open the door, Diane's standing there.
Yep. And she's like, we need to have a discussion, blah, blah, blah. You are not going to hold one incident against Violet. And Chase and Brook Lynn are like, whoa. Step out in the hallway. Hold on. We've already done this and you're just going to make it worse.
Yeah.
And the poor principal is just like, yeah, I've seen all kinds of parents react different ways. I'm glad we can work this out with just us. Have a good day.
I was really glad to see, though, because when they asked for a moment, typically in Hollywood land, the person leaves their own office and leaves it to people.
Right.
Which never makes sense to me. And in this case, the principal shut his office door so he could go back to his office and let them in the hallway. But I did like that Diane said, so Tracy called me and said that this was going on. And, maybe I did come in a little hot, but that's only because how much I love that little girl. And, she's glad to hear that everything seems to be okay. But if anything changes, she's going to be right there.
Yep. So cute.
Yes. And then we did learn that Violet is suspended for the rest of the week. She does obviously have to apologize to Garth. And they reminded her again, we don't hit people when you're mad. And she's like, no, that's okay, because I got a new French phrase.
Right.
And then, she told them that she's also telling her dad that she got in trouble at school. And I am so thankful that none of them asked her to not tell him, because it could upset him, which then, and if they had done that, that would have put in Violet's head that even the smallest part of this is her fault.
Right.
So I'm very thankful that they did not do that. And I mean, if anything, this is the place for Finn to receive news like that because he's surrounded by people to help him process these things. And he needs to be having real life happening to him as much as possible while he's there because he has to learn how to process that stuff. You can't be sheltered from it and then just be expected to go back into the real world and not know how to handle it. So
Right.
I'm really glad that they didn't tell her not to. Oh, and then we saw Robert told Diane that Holly's back.
Whatever. Robert was on my nerves because he was like, oh, I'm so sorry that I was a jerk before, and I'm glad that you forgive me, and you're my present and my future, and blah, 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 blah. And then 5 minutes later, Holly walks in, and he says to her, she's like, oh, were you waiting for me? And he's like, all my life. Don't speak to someone else like that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but
the editing made that, because then the next scene was, well, you take forever. I've been waiting my whole life because you are never on time.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I know.
If your husband said that to another woman, even if he followed it up
He'd be
with,
dead.
right, like, I'm late for everything. If your husband said to me, I'm always waiting for you, like that, you would kill him. Even though he would 100% be justified in saying, we are always waiting for you because you are always late.
It was the way that they cut it together, though, because
just that phrase, no.
for her to, well, no, because she started it with the, oh, you're waiting, because he's like, oh, it's about time you showed up, you know, and she should know by now that, yeah, Mac has told him she's back. So why was that a shock to her that he knew that she was there? I don't know, but I agree.
The whole tone of it was still just inappropriate. And then she's like, I don't know, just that look that she gets. And I'm like, no, stop. He already said, like, he is not interested. And then Mac came in and Mac is like, no, I didn't want you guys hanging out. I don't know why Felicia told you guys or told Holly to come over here, blah, blah, blah. And Robert's like, I don't need my brother sticking his nose in my business. I know how to do whatever I'm doing. And I was just talking to her. And even Mac is like, no, you two should not be together because you get in this stupid pattern and you're going to end up screwing things up with Diane over Holly. That's not freaking worth it.
Yep.
We are Cal and Chip, and our podcast, of course, is the Fellas Podcast, and it is sponsored by new movie The Long Walk, only in cinemas from September 12th. Right, listen to this. You're on a road, no end in sight, 50 boys in a non-stop marathon where there can only be one winner, and the only rule, stop walking, you're done.
We just watched the trailer and brother, it's mad. Like, really scary.
It's called The Long Walk. Dystopian, ruthless, one road, no finish line. You either walk or you die. The cast is stacked. BAFTA rising star David Johnson, Cooper Hoffman, Mark Hamill, big performances.
How far could you go for your ticket to freedom? Could you go the distance?
Walk or die. One road, no finish line. Watch The Long Walk exclusively in cinemas September 12th.
I really liked Mac this week. I feel like they're making him Mac again.
Yes.
And because he's not a busybody, but he definitely helps the people he loves to see all the sides of it, you know, because he's like, no, Robert, we've literally been here a million times by now. You know, nothing good can come from this. And you need, what was it that he said? Hold it, I wrote it down. Max said that Holly is like a whirlpool at Niagara Falls that Robert throws himself at like a lovesick boy in a barrel. And he asks Robert if Robert finally realizes his life and Holly's are fundamentally incompatible. And then Robert says that he's glad Holly was a part of bringing back Lucky. And he likes being with Diane and he likes his life. He is just glad that Holly is safe. But that was huge for Robert to finally just admit that's it.
I'm glad that he finally admitted that to Mac, but he needed to say that directly to Holly.
Correct. Yes. I do actually think that he might have had Mac not barged in because he was starting to talk to her about, Holly's on my nerves this week. And typically I don't have a problem with her, except for she's walking around claiming she saved everybody.
Right. I even saved your precious Anna and Jason. No, you didn't.
And then as soon as they told me about, well, no, but here's the thing. She was honest about when she said, well, Jason and Anna told me about Lulu. And then I knew I had to save Lucky, because she really wasn't trying to save Lucky before that.
No, she was not.
So that's when Robert said, so do you regret saving Lucky? And then I think that's about when Mac barged in, wasn't it?
Yes.
So yeah. And who else does she say that? Oh, she said it to Brennan, because Brennan came and brought her a bottle of champagne and introduced himself. And okay, she has been around for how long? Why does she think that this man knows nothing about her?
Right. She's like, oh, you just want to get acquainted. No, he knows a whole lot. He wants to know what you know, because you are not someone that just got in this relationship and was like, oh, geez, you happen to be a diamond smuggler. I had no idea.
Right. There is absolutely no way that she did not intentionally put herself in those hotels and casinos and everything to get the attention of Sidwell.
Right.
And then she started asking him, well, it's pretty lucky that, that drone strike just happened.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. And then Felicia shows up and is like, what are you doing? Why did you come to me? And why are you hanging out with Brennan?
Yep. Well, the first thing she says, what did you and Anna get yourself into? And Brennan pops out and is like, that's what I've been asking.
Yeah, exactly. And then Felicia and Holly go have lunch. And that's where Holly's like, yeah, so your man told me to stay away from Robert. And Felicia's like, no, you should definitely go see him. Which I think he should know better. Like, she would not want to be tossed back together with Frisco like that.
Right.
So don't be doing it to Robert.
But that's also not fair to her friend.
Yeah. Or
I know you
Felicia,
don't let your friends make stupid decisions when it comes to guys. If you already know
that he's with someone else, right?
But not just that. Even if he was single, if you know how this always happens, you don't let your friend turn a blind eye to it. You remind them, yeah, okay, that's great. But remember the first 6 times that happened with you guys? It's it's not going to change.
Right.
Not going to change. Sometimes it can, but that's where it becomes the exception, not the rule.
Exactly.
So actually, in Felicia's favor, she's the exception to the rule when it comes to Mac, because Mac really should not have given her as many chances as he did.
Should not have.
And she doesn't mention that. She's not like, listen, if it was, I can't finish the sentence. I don't even know where I was going with that. But you know what I'm saying.
Line, it's just stay away.
Right.
And I know that Felicia's not friends with Diane, but she is friendly enough with Diane that you don't do that to somebody else. Like, hey, I know you're dating this guy, but my friend really likes him, so I'm just sending my friend over to blow up your relationship.
Right. Like, she at least respects her. There's not anything bad in between them. So why would you do that?
Right. Come on, Felicia. Girl code. What are you doing?
Yes. So the other thing that happened with Felicia and Mac, I did like that Felicia straight up told Mac, well, funny, I told her to do the other thing.
Yeah.
And that's when Mac started calling Robert and couldn't get a hold of him. And so that's when he left. And then that's when he had his Spidey sense on, or his Scorpio sense on, and knew that he had to get to Robert, because he knew that this was not good. If he couldn't get in touch with him, no one knew where Holly was. Gee, I wonder where they are. Like, what's happening?
Right.
But Felicia notices a woman at the Metro Court that has a dog.
Yeah. And she's like, oh, yeah, that dog was made an emotional support animal years ago. Because that.
Oh, no. She does not say emotional support, because she straight up says she pulled strings to get it to be a service animal, which that is disgusting. And I can't. I actually thought for a little bit when Mac was looking at his phone and was like, so how well do you know her? So how do you know? Like all this stuff. I thought for sure he was going to go arrest her. It's not funny. It is illegal. Like, that's an absolutely horrible thing. It is illegal,
but I don't think that Mac's going to go arrest her, because if she pulled some strings, the paperwork would look legit.
I know, but still.
It is frustrating. I agree.
It's disgusting. It's disgusting. It is absolutely horrible. And people that do that should be arrested and have consequences.
I agree.
But I guess she is a PI and one of Felicia's competitions.
Yes.
And then when Mac left, we see Carly and Lucas talking, having lunch. Was it Carly and Lucas? Yeah.
Yes.
That's when Carly and Lucas. And you just see Elaine like straight through looking at them, just sitting there. And they were talking about, how he reconnected with Wiley, and Carly was asking how that went and things like that. But then, Carly's just filling him in on, Wiley's personality and stuff. Then Felicia left and Elaine followed her and asked who the new tasty man in Carly's life is. Is she really already stepping out on Sonny? And Felicia tells Mavis, the dog, that he needs to tell his fur mama that she's barking up the wrong tree.
Yep.
Because that's her brother. And Elaine's like, he's a hottie. And Felicia's like, yeah, he is. And he's a surgeon. And Elaine's like, ooh, she's like, and he's gay.
Just the fact that woman thought that her and her doggy were going to like go, hey, Lucas, and start a relationship or something. I'm sorry, woman, but
no,
you were not his type.
No. But then Felicia seriously asks her, so you're on Carly's case, right? And Elaine's like, oh, no, absolutely not. At that point, if you were a private investigator, especially talking to another private investigator, wouldn't you back off for the day?
Or just say, I can't, as well as I do, I can't disclose who I'm working for or what I'm investigating. She, by saying, oh no, I was just curious as to who Carly's dating because everyone's talking about that, made her sound even more ridiculous. Felicia, of course, would have assumed that it was Carly and gone off of that, but she could have played it off like, she's here investigating someone else and that just happened to catch her eye or something. The way that she was like, oh, no, it completely made it obvious. And then Felicia's like, yeah, I'll just call up Carly and let her know, hey, you're being tailed. Which I just want to know how everyone in that town has everyone else's phone number.
I want to know when she and Carly became friends.
Well, I think Felicia feels like she has to be watchful over Bobby's kids.
Okay.
Which makes sense.
Yep.
But I still, and then it makes sense that she may have Carly's number now. But if you notice, like everyone has everyone's number all the time. Like, I'll just call them up. Like, how do you have the whole town's number? Is there a directory? What the heck?
They still got the yellow pages or the white pages. Sorry.
Maybe, but that's a really accurate phone book then that you like put it all in your cell phone that you have these contacts.
That's true.
Ridiculous. But anyway, yeah, she calls her. And then finally she's like, Felicia, I can't answer. Like, I can't talk. I'm doing something. And Felicia's like, I know exactly what you're doing. And so does some other woman that's taking pictures. So you better knock it off.
Oh, and the way so Carly went to Brennan's hotel room. He called her, said, we're having dinner tonight. And this Elaine lady basically walks almost right into the room holding the dog with her phone, just taking pictures.
Right. Oh, I happened to try to get into the wrong room or whatever. But I also thought it was ridiculous. So
before that, like when Carly first went in the room, she basically almost followed her in, but then she tried. But then later on, she tried to open up the room. I'm also wondering why Jack doesn't have security. He's the head of the WSB.
Yeah.
Like, that's an ongoing security detail, I think.
I would think so. But I also thought it was ridiculous that we're trying to base this whole Carly's lying because she's seen with Brennan because he bought a bottle of champagne. Earlier in the day, he took a bottle of champagne to Holly. If we were keeping track of how many bottles of champagne Brennan is taking to people a day, no, that's not evidence. That is Brennan's just a slime ball and likes to schmooze women for information.
Yep. No, I agree. Because I was like, that's the second bottle. Like, they should be actually questioning, dude, how are you? Are you okay?
Right.
You yourself are ordering like 3 bottles of this big champagne a day.
Anyway, yeah, I liked that Carly was like, we need to figure out who Brennan said, we need to figure out who she's following, you or me. And she's like, oh, it's me. It's definitely me.
Yeah.
Don't worry. That rolls us into Alexis. Is there anything else before that?
That's what I'm scrolling. No, because I think that everything basically eventually gets us
Okay.
to. So do we want to start with the Alexis side of things and then we go to the other one last?
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
So Martin is trying to prove that Carly lied whenever she said that she was with Sonny because she's seen entering Brennan's hotel room, which also does not prove. I understand he's just trying to give doubt, but it also doesn't prove. Like, Carly's an adult woman. She could have been in Sonny's bed or Tracy's bed with Sonny a few weeks ago and visiting Brennan. She's allowed to do that if that's what she chooses. So that doesn't mean that one or the other would be a lie. It just means that that's what she was choosing to do. But
I get what they're doing, though, because of the pattern of Carly. I think if this was not potentially the third time Carly was doing this, but I think where this is, in the past, she has literally married the man just to help him out.
Yeah.
This time it makes sense for them to really call into question who she's spending time with and whose room she's going to.
I understand them questioning it. And I guess if the point is just to create doubt, like Martin was saying, then that works. But if they're trying to make this like a main part of the investigation, it is not going to hold up. Because like we just said, Brennan bought 2 bottles of champagne the same day, and Carly is allowed to talk to whoever she wants to in their room or not. But Martin is like pulling, grasping at straws. And even Alexis is like, sure, go ahead and push that, twist it however you want. But the attorney in me is saying that's not going to be enough to cause some type of doubt. And then at the same time that they're talking about everything, we see Sonny at his house telling everyone that he's going to turn himself in and admit to every crime that they can still file against him based on the statute of limitations, as long as they agree not to do anything to Christina or Alexis or Carly. And Christina is like, this is not what you're gonna do. So I'm waiting for Christina to like show up and be like, yeah, I was the one that killed him. It was all me. But
I love how much everyone's conversation around Christina, and they have literally said to Christina's face, is you need to not get involved. You are going to mess this up, and we are going to have to fix it anyway.
Yep. But she just keeps doing it. She went to see Anna. She went to see Anna, and Michael shows up and is like, no, we're not doing this. Even Anna tried to help her. She was like, as much as I want to hear your story, are you sure you don't want an attorney here? Like, this does not seem like something you should be doing alone. And she's like, nope. But so Sonny tells all of them that he's going to turn himself in. He's told Carly and Jason, and then told Michael and Christina. Then he goes to Pentonville to tell Alexis, and Alexis is like, wow, I wasn't prepared for you to do that. And are you sure that our daughter understands she needs to keep her mouth shut because you're going to do this and she's going to screw it up anyway? And he says he thinks that Christina understands now. She can't say anything. And then at the same time, we happen to see a mysterious box delivered to the PCPD that they think is a bomb. And whenever they open it up, it's magically the gun that Alexis threw over the thing.
Yep.
And then Robert is like, let's not let this information out until after Sonny has his meeting here at noon. Mm-hmm. And now we finally see Dante in the position that he has continued to pretend like he had been in, even though I really don't feel like he had been in that position up until now. But now
not this bad.
That from Dex on accident told him, hey, the ballistics are coming back. That wasn't the gun. And so does he or does he not tell Sonny? Dun, dun, dun.
Yep. You forgot to mention that Michael found Christina because he had Spinelli put a tracking device on her, or tracking app on her phone.
Yep. She was like, you have no right to babysit me. And he was like, you literally asked for my help, but you're not listening. So this was my last resort.
Yep. Well, and then she went to Alexis after Sonny had already been there.
Yeah.
And that's when Alexis told her again. Well, because earlier in the week, I love Martin and Alexis's back and forth, because she's like, this isn't proving anything. This isn't proving anything. All you're doing. But she even said, if you basically have to throw Carly under the bus, go for it.
Right. Make it seem like Sonny's covering for Carly. All good.
Yep. But yeah, who was it? Who did Dante wind up talking to? Cody. Saw him at the hospital. And Dante's like, I can't really tell you anything. And he says like 2 sentences, and Cody, or not even 2 sentences. He says like a very, very short. And Cody's like, so what you're saying is there's evidence that could, convict your dad, and you're not sure what to do about it.
Right. Like,
and Dante looks at him like, what? How would you know that?
Right.
But
like,
and the fact that the evidence can also exonerate someone who is 100% innocent.
Right.
And Dante says, he's either betraying his badge or betraying his father. And Cody's like, well, after everything that Kate's did to your family, who do you have? Did he say like it was? Which one do you think is more important? The badge or
right
your family? So, yeah,
I was interested, or I'll be interested to see if Anna is going to say something to Sonny though, because even
Anna was trying to get Carly to change her.
Right. Yeah. She called Carly in and was like, why don't you change your story? Look, we have these pictures. And Carly is still like, no, I'm sticking with my story.
No, she didn't show her the pictures until after she said like one last time to Carly. And Carly was like, I'm not changing. And then Anna opened up the folder and Carly looked back. I don't think we saw anything after that, though.
I guess she didn't answer her after that. But she's not changing her story. Yeah.
Well, I mean, she can't now because she just doubled down on, nope, I'm protecting Sonny. I know what I'm doing, blah, 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 blah. And now Anna's like, yeah, so now we definitely have.
But I'm sure that even Carly is smart enough to be like, you have something that may put doubt in people's minds. It does not say that I was not with Sonny that day. So, no, I'm not changing my story. And
I did love Diane going to visit Jason and begging him to do something because, she cannot let her best friend go to jail when they both know Sonny did this.
Right.
He tells her, well, Sonny already decided to turn himself in. That's when Sonny was telling Carly that he was going to turn himself in. And that's what Carly was saying. She's like, I'm going to go down with you because of this. And he said that he has the plane ready to go and that...
which was just ridiculous.
She and Donna can just get going because, it's either she loses one parent or loses both.
Yeah. And Carly's like, I have a whole bunch of other family here and stuff going on. We're trying to figure out the whole Lulu thing. And I can't just go to another country. And I can't do that to Donna.
So, yeah, very interesting.
Ridiculous.
Oh, and then Jason was talking about what were he and Diane talking about? Sonny, he was saying about how Sonny turning himself in can't be the only one to free Alexis. And Diane mentioned about, well, they need to find the gun. And, if Sam hasn't found it by now, it has to be long gone. And they were arguing about the fact that Jason feels like he failed at his job because he's like, I should have killed Kate's when I had the chance. The second he mentioned Carly, I should have, taken him out right then and there. And Diane's like, that's not entirely your job,
Right.
Then he starts talking about how, his family would actually do better for him with him not being there, and that he's going to make up he's going to spend the rest of his life making up for the mistakes of him being gone and everything. And she's like, you're not the one who gets to determine that. It's your boys are definitely going to think otherwise.
Right. Exactly.
And he said something about how his life doesn't matter as much as Carly and Sonny's. And she's like, yeah. And you go tell your kids that, see how they feel about that.
Right.
And then Jason basically says that he doesn't want to fail his boys, but he also can't fail Sonny. So he feels like he has to sacrifice himself.
Right.
Which I'm glad that he's not going to have to now. Because that was the other thing, is that the minerals, I did like this. The minerals found on the gun were from Blackstone Canyon.
Yes.
And based on this and that, and it is registered to Sonny and this, that, and the other thing. Yeah. Where it was found, it must have been tossed at a certain time. And, then it could definitely.
I did think it was, and I guess I do understand. I definitely understand. They have to do like their due diligence or whatever. But I did think it was ridiculous whenever Anna was like, we'll have to question Rick and Elizabeth and see if they can identify this as the gun. At first they thought it was a cell phone because they were so far away, and then they realized it was a gun just by like a shiny glimpse of the moonlight. But you want them to look at it and be like, yes, that is the gun. Like,
Right.
they can't
Right.
identify the gun.
Right.
Not happening. Oh, we missed Anna's awkward weirdness when she went to Jason and was like, are we going to talk about this kiss? And he was like,
yeah.
sure, if you want to. And she's like, I don't want to, but it'll never happen again. And it was like, okay, are you telling Jason that for Jason, or are you telling Jason that for yourself? Because again, Jason doesn't seem all torn up over it, and you keep replaying it in your mind like it's the best fantasy you've seen all year. So
they can not bring it up again. That'd be great.
Exactly. I hope they stick to it because that's just ew.
Yes. And then I think the rest is all Lucky. So when Lucky stepped off the elevator, he saw Aiden and immediately apologized for just not being in touch. And Aiden's like, it's okay, you've been busy. And he's like, not an excuse. And then Liz notices from the nurse's station. So she comes over and she's like, so middle of the hallway, probably not the best way for you guys to play catch up. And so she took them to the break room. And I loved how much Lucky was struggling with starting to say something. He's like, no, that sounds like an excuse. It's not. I'm just saying, it's, I was in places that I couldn't contact, but, he still should have tried to find a way, or at least make contact the day that he got back to being able to. And Aiden just said about how he's glad that he's there now, and that he knows that Lucky didn't fall off the map just because he doesn't care about him. And he says about how he's been wanting to talk to him, but, some things can't be said like through email or video chat or whatever. And so Lucky sits down and he's like, all right, cool. Let's sit down. Let's talk. And he's kind of like bumbling in this conversation. Aiden's like, let me just be the only one talking right now.
Right.
And and then that's when, he was like, I couldn't really tell you this without you being face to face. And Lucky's like, I'm listening. And Aiden tells him that he's gay. And Lucky's quiet, and Aiden's kind of like, don't you have anything to say? And Lucky is just, he said, how you just said that you didn't know what to say? He's like, I just need a minute. And he tells him that he is his father and he loves him without exception. And if he's ever made him question that he's sorry.
Yeah, that was beautiful. I did tear up for that. That was very, Lucky's such a good dad.
Yes. And Aiden tells him that he knows that he loves him, and Lucky says no, he really doesn't think that he does if he felt like he couldn't talk to him about that,
And even Liz said, because she was talking to Terry at the same time, she said, and Terry's like, oh yeah, because Aiden's gay. And Liz is like, oh, he told you? And she's like, duh. And then...
Well, she was shocked that that Aiden told her.
Right. But Terry was like, of course he told me. And then Liz was like, but I don't think he's going to tell his dad. And then, yay, he did.
At first, so I'm a fan of something like that. That's not something, if Aiden felt comfortable enough telling Terry, there's no reason for Terry to tell Liz until Aiden tells Liz that Terry's knows. However, in that situation, I thought that it was helpful for the whole situation because Liz doesn't know who she can talk to. Terry even said, there's no safer place than me. Her just letting her know, like her friend know, I do know what you're worrying about. Let's talk about it. So that way Liz didn't have to struggle on her own, because she also needs to, what if Aiden didn't tell Lucky? She was going to have to figure out how to navigate all that, because obviously she didn't tell Lucky, which is good. Right. But, Terry just makes her feel calm and lets her know that everything's going to be okay.
Yep.
So then, they sit down and Aiden's telling him, Aiden starts telling him all about his baking business and about how the money's going to help him study pastry baking in Paris. And Lucky tells him that it reminds him of his dad, and how, no matter where they traveled to, Luke always found a way to make money, and told him about the Triple L diner in Canada, and that Luke did all the cooking there.
Yeah.
And Aiden was talking about how Luke's basically like a legend in Port Charles. And Lucky says that Luke would think what he's doing is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But then Liz comes in and it looks like they're having a great time. And then Aiden's like, shoot, I have to go to my friend's house. And Aiden asked him as he was leaving, are you sticking around? And he's like, I'm not going to leave without telling you.
Yeah.
But then Lucky recognizes the look in Liz's eyes.
Yeah. And he was so sweet. She's like, you can't donate. It's not safe. And he's like, I don't care about me. Like, we just need to save Lulu. And she's like, no, that's what I'm saying is you would be okay. It is not safe for Lulu because you have some type of parasite that your body has adapted to. Her body would not. And then he loses it.
Well, yeah, because I mean, he's just putting the guilt back on himself for the choices that he's made, you know, the fact that he's traveled all over the place. And he's like, there has to be a pill, there has to be a shot, there has to be something you guys can do. And she says, like, you have helped so many people. And he's like, what does it matter if I can't save her?
Right.
Ugh.
Then he goes to Bobby's and kicks everybody out and destroys the whole place. And Jocelyn comes in and is like, Lucky, is that you? And what are you doing? Why are you destroying the family business? It's so disrespectful. And he's like, yeah, you're right. I can't. And he like leaves. And she's like, well, thank you for leaving me with this mess to clean up. I appreciate it. And then she gets the phone call and is like, oh. So
well, before he left the hospital, he had gone to see Lulu and was apologizing, and Rocco overheard.
Yes.
And I think that's what pushed him over the edge. Was he literally had to look at his nephew, who didn't recognize him, who only knew him from pictures,
right,
and tell him that he couldn't save his mom.
Right.
Because then, thankfully, he didn't tell him until Dante got there. But, you know, Rocco overheard him, and then that's when he went to...
Yeah, he was like, why are you apologizing for not saving her when that was the whole reason you came home? And then Dante walked in.
I like how they're addressing the fact that these kids have no idea who he is, because he even looked at Jocelyn for a minute and was like, Jocelyn? And she's like, you're lucky? Because I'm glad that you recognize me, because I do not recognize you.
Yeah. But she knew who he was when she walked in by his looks. She just didn't recognize his behavior because he was being ridiculous.
Right. And then, well, he yelled at her because she was like, you know, Jason almost died helping you. And he's like, well, he wasted a trip. And then.
Yeah. And then the police showed up and they're like, do you want to press charges? And she's like, no. And they're like, well, you can't do anything for insurance without paperwork that you press charges. And she's like, yep, nope. I'm just going to clean this up because my family likes to be crazy sometimes. It's okay.
Yep. And during that, Lucky went to see Jason and asked him for a passport and money. And Jason, without even taking a breath, says, you can't donate to Lulu, you know, because it's, he knows that that's pretty much the only reason why Lucky would just want to leave. And it's funny because he had this conversation with Lucky before Diane basically had the same conversation with him. Because Lucky's asking Jason, listen, you understand, I need you to tell me what to do. Jason said, I can give you the money, I can give you the passport, but you owe it to Elizabeth and Aiden and your mom.
Right.
You know, and tells him that, you know, there was no time for him to say goodbye the 2 times that he died. And it's only going to cause them more pain, even though Elizabeth, Aiden, and Laura are super strong and can survive it. He's like, Lucky, I don't know if you can.
Right. I wish I had friends that just kept $10,000 in a drawer.
Right.
Can I borrow $10,000? Here you go. All right,
sure. Give me like a year or so.
Right. Just pay it back whenever you can. It's fine. Okay, thanks.
But yeah, I mean, he winds up giving him the money. I mean, they talked a lot more about they talked about Luke too, because Lucky said, you know, because Jason said, you know, your dad was in and out. How did you feel about that?
Right.
And then Lucky said, I think that he kept leaving because he had to rebalance himself so that we didn't see his demons. Yeah. So yeah, wasn't wrong on that. And then he did leave with the money. I wonder if he's going to give the money back.
I don't know. He said, I'll pay you back. So
yeah, but then he went to the chapel. Yeah, he's not leaving now because he went to the chapel and he was praying and he was begging for a sign that, you know, he needs to stay and, you know, he just wants to stop causing all the pain to people. And if he's listening, if God's listening, he just needs some guidance and he's pretty desperate. So he'll take whatever he's got. And Laura walks through the door.
Yes, I loved that expression. It felt like we've said before, more than just the characters, but the actors themselves when she was like, Lucky, and like lit up. Yeah. So.
And so,
That was
then the next day we saw, I know, she's like, you're in time. You can save your sister. And
he's like, I'm not. And this was supposed to make up for last time that I couldn't save her. And that like opened up that whole can of worms from.
She kept talking about how like his hair was so long, but it looked like, he looks like Luke. So it's great. And it's all okay because he's healthy and he's, and then he gets that look like, oh crap, you don't know.
Right.
Because she said something about how Liz told her where he was. And he's like, and that's the only thing Liz told you?
Yeah.
And then he told her that he can't be the donor. And Laura just loses it.
Yeah. And asks him to be there as she has to say goodbye to Lulu, and they embrace and cry. And then at the same time, we see Dante with Lulu, and in comes Olivia, and Liz is like, your son really needs you right now. And so she walks in and she's like, I've contacted everyone that I've ever met before, and I told Nina to do the same. And why didn't we do this a few weeks ago? Like, it was not guaranteed that we were going to find Lucky, and if we did, it would be in time. Why did we not reach out to all of these people beforehand? But okay, thank you. Like the lab at GH and at other facilities is backed up because so many people are being tested. Why did we not do this a few weeks ago? But okay.
I think it would have been interesting too, had they, because Olivia talked about Nina's international too, like everyone she knows. Given that Holly was in the same compound, it's fair to assume she'd be reading a fashion magazine, given who she is. I think it would have been interesting for her to have come across the article, and maybe it would have been like on the front cover, and Lucky would have looked over and seen like the picture of his sister, and then they work together to get out of there somehow, which would have been a very... Then, yes, Holly would have saved him. But Holly's not the same adventurous that like Luke and Laura are. And that's what Laura talked about, how he's always been not a loner, but she said, you were like 12 and we just let you go after the Triple L blew up, how trouble always finds us. And she knew they were going to be separated for a few weeks, and she knew that they were going to be okay because that's who he is.
Yeah. She was like, you have been having adventures since you were a toddler. Like, since you could walk, you were doing whatever.
So that would have been really interesting to see Lucky fighting his way out if that had happened. So yes, I love the idea that we should have done the magazine thing first and maybe not had to have Anna and Jason even go there.
Right.
But Lucky's just still torn because he's like, this is when you guys need me the most. And I love that Laura is saying, you can't regret what you've been doing. You've been doing so much to help. And she's like, what would all these, these different areas, the doctors, the patients, you've been protecting them.
Right.
So, and I love that she didn't ask him to stay forever, but just stay if she had to say goodbye.
Yes. So sad.
Yep.
She's not going to have to say goodbye because they're going to fix it.
They have to. Oh, they're killing me with Lucky, though.
Right? So emotional.
I think that's it. I mean, it was a lot.
It was a lot. It was a very emotional week.
Yes. Oh, we forgot about the fact that Natalia and Sonny.
Oh, God. Do we even have to talk about that? It's so stupid.
They didn't talk about anything.
Oh, and Holly was going to look for Sonny because her diamond dealer fell through.
Yes.
Stupid.
They talked about almost nothing, and they almost kissed, and then Sonny got a phone call. So, Ethan was also tested and was not a match.
Yes.
So.
Oh, and I did like as much as I hate Natalia, I did like that she told Christina that Blaze was doing well. And so I like that they're leaving that door open in case they want to bring Blaze back, because I did like her and I felt like there was potential for that character outside of the Christina stuff even. Absolutely.
I mean, there's a few other ones, Portia, that we could have gotten rid of instead of Blaze.
Right. So, but yeah, I think that was pretty much it. I can't wait to see what Brad's going to do now that he knows. I don't want him to revert back to the bad guy Brad, but that would be fun to see him be like, So, Portia, you keep trying to act like you're going to fire me. I have this information I could blackmail you with.
Do you want to bet that he goes to Lucas first? He might go to Lucas.
Yeah.
And say, hey, you're new here, so you don't know this lady. Because if he goes to Liz, he knows that they're friends.
I was thinking he'd go to Terry.
Not
Not that they're not friends, but she's the other chief of staff.
Terry's a very matter-of-fact person, too.
Yeah.
She wouldn't try to find a reason why.
I mean, he needs to tell somebody just to save his own back so that he can bring it up before Portia tries to bring it up and flip it.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
But yeah, I think that's it.
Okay.
It was a juicy week.
It was.
Reality check.
So how was your week? Did you have a juicy week?
I did. Last week I did, not that I did nothing, but I was like, oh, I just worked. So we recorded on Saturday, and then that Saturday morning, and then that night we had an Arts for Autism fundraiser night for the organization that my daughter receives her job coaching through, and they celebrated their 10th anniversary, and she was one of their 10 featured participants. And so that was nice. There was a big board that had her story on it. There was like an art auction and great food. They had some aerial artists there. It was nice. They've done this every year, and we just had never gone before. And then Sunday was Erica's birthday, and we were trying to figure out something to do. And it was Oktoberfest downtown, and there's a Ferris wheel that's on the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And for one, I don't like bridges. And two, Ferris wheels have a love-hate relationship with them. It's like, oh yeah, I definitely want to do that. And then you're on it and you're like, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm going to die.
I feel the same way about Ferris wheels. It's like, I just want you to take me straight to the top, leave me there for a second so I can go, oh, this view is beautiful, and then bring me right back down again. I do not want to keep doing this stop and start.
Yes, exactly. And I picture every which way that I could die and how I could survive. And so we decided to go do the Ferris wheel on the bridge. And I determined that the best place for the bridge to collapse is when we were at the top of the Ferris wheel, because then we would just be able to jump out and over.
Oh,
and jump into the water. Right. The worst place to be if the bridge collapsed would be on the bottom, because then the Ferris wheel just falls under you.
Yes.
But also, if you decide not to jump up and out of your seat, if the bridge starts collapsing, you just ride it down like the Titanic.
Okay.
So, yep. So I was very proud of myself for doing that, because it's something that I've been working on, is getting over my feelings when I'm on bridges. And then we just went to Texas Roadhouse for Erica's dinner.
Yum.
And I know, so good. And then something my therapist has been telling me to do for quite some time is, I love cleaning. I love deep cleaning. I love cleaning. I just don't have the dedicated time that I need to have. So like, my house isn't messy, but I don't get the chance to do it. And she's like, you need to get yourself a cleaner. She's like, you're doing well, do it. And so I finally reached out to someone that I've known for a while, and I see that she gets a lot of, compliments and things like that. And so I finally reached out to her. It does not cost as much as I thought it would. She did recommend, she's like, let's do a deep cleaning. So they did that. They were here from 8:30 until 4:30. Well, they started off with one person and then eventually wound up with three. So it was like one came at 8:30, the other one came at 9:30, and I think the other one came between like 10:30. So if all three had been there at 8:30, it probably wouldn't have taken until 4:30. But they did everything, and I cleaned off like all surfaces, because I was like, nope, we are decluttering as we are putting away also. So I did it. And of course, I didn't really have that much work I had to be getting done that day. So of course, but my son was home from school for whatever reason. They didn't have class on Monday. And so me, Erica, and him took the dog to a lake just to walk around for a little bit, hung out, got lunch, and then came home. And then I was able to work outside because it was a nice day. So I at least got some work done. It felt so good. I was like, okay, I'm definitely going to do this. So I think November and December, I'm at least going to do monthly. And then possibly in January, I'll get to bi-weekly. So,
oh, nice.
I know. I never thought that I'd be that person, but I am now.
I need that. Someone come clean my house.
I love it. I already know that I love it. So then
we finally got some information about my daughter's disability. So it was on Monday when we were recording Lucky is when I opened up the mail and got the information that I have to do another phone call.
Yes.
This upcoming Wednesday to go over more information. And it sounded like they approved part of it. And you were saying that they approved it, but I'm like, that's not what that letter specifically said. It said before we make a final determination,
right,
we need to talk again. I got the official, they approved the medical side.
See, I told you.
Letter on Friday. And so now they just need to approve the non-medical side, which is what?
It's just our financial stuff. It's just to re-verify that she doesn't make more than what they would allow her to make.
But they want the whole household.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
It is still a stupid process. I'm not going to lie to you at that. But the hardest part to prove is the medical, as you know, from going through this ridiculous amounts of times. So now that is done, the financial part should be easy. Unless you have $10,000 laying around multiple places that I didn't know about, you'll be fine because it's her money.
It doesn't matter if I do. It matters if she does.
Right. So,
which she does not. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but so that worked, and then we finally got the waiver approved.
Yay!
And we were able to start one service under that this week. So yeah, I had a week. How about you?
Yay. So my fun stuff yesterday, Madeline stayed the night at a friend's house and went to Kennywood for Fright Night. And so I was like, I have nothing to do. Emily didn't have to work, so I didn't have to worry about driving her around for that. And I just had like nothing. And so I saw an ad for a witches, I can't remember what they called it. Witches something. Anyway, it's in Leechburg. Every year they have a Halloween like pop-up event. And so they had a bunch of vendors there selling all kinds of different spooky stuff. And they had people doing tarot card readings, and they had food trucks, and they had different entertainers, and they had a band. And then their regular shops were open with all the different stuff that they sell. And proceed of all the money that they earn goes back into the town to keep improving it, because it's the cutest town ever. And it has I kept referring to, like, I felt like I was in a Gilmore Girl episode, because it's like right in the center of town is where everything is happening. And like, we don't have that here in our town. And so it was nice. And then they told us about one that they do at Christmas, and they had this huge like raffle with all these beautiful pictures that they had of the nativity scene and of Santa Claus and stuff like that. So I definitely am going to have to go back for the Christmas one and enter the drawing. But it was just something different. Like, I love October and Halloween time and whatever, but the kids, other than Madeline, are too big for a lot of stuff. The fact that Madeline is at Fright Night had me freaked out, because I personally will not go to Fright Night because I don't want to be scared, but she is now old enough to go. So whatever. So it was just fun to, like, there was a lot of people dressed up in costume and like really embracing the thing. They had ghost tours and like a bunch of different stuff that you could do. So it was cool. It was something different. So it was fun. And then the crappiness of my week, I need everyone's thoughts and prayers for me that I don't kill someone, because my ex decided that he is now going to sue me for 50-50 custody of Madeline, because he does not want to pay child support, which I absolutely do not think that he will get, but you know, it gets in your head. So
even still having to go through the process is
so, but
he doesn't live in the district, and he doesn't live nearby, and she's 11.
I needed Tracy's French line, because he texted me and was like, I want her 3 overnights, and I said no. And he said, what did he say next? Oh, then I'm gonna sue for it. I just wanted to let you know first. And I just responded back, okay. And then he texted and was like, there's no reason they're not going to give it to me. And I just responded back, okay. But I really needed Tracy's French line to just be like, whatever. So again,
I just gave you the reasons,
but I need all of our fans to just pray, or whatever belief they have, thoughts, prayers, whatever, that it all goes the way that it should. Because if not, you might be solo on the podcast and I'll be featured on Snapter 2020 or something.
I've been waiting for this. It's always been a question of who was going to get there first.
Right? So this might be it. But
no, I don't think it's going to be. I mean, I just gave you the reasons. He doesn't even live in the district. He doesn't even live near the district. And she's 11 and he didn't even want 50-50 when he did live in the district. So
he's never
not going to happen.
He's never asked for her more than 2 overnights a month since she's been born.
Yeah, no.
So I would assume that any judge with half a brain could see what's going on here, but you do always hear the stories of somehow it works out in some ridiculous way. So
right.
Yeah. Look forward to good news on the podcast or the whole setup changing, because Amanda will either be in the mental hospital or the state prison. So
we will figure it out. We'll figure it out.
I hope I can
make it work.
Heather Weber is my cellmate. Then I could just write to you with extra ideas. Like, here you go.
There you go.
Either way, it'll be entertaining.
It will always. All right. Well, join us on Thursday as we continue with Lucky and Liz.
I'm so excited. Just puts a smile on my face even thinking about it. But yeah, have a good week.
And we'll meet you at the pier.
Bye. If you enjoyed today's show, we invite you to go to pier54podcast.com to subscribe on your favorite platform. Don't forget to leave us a review.
And you can also follow us on many social media channels. Just search for Pier 54 Podcast. Also, we are not perfect, so if there is something that we missed or messed up, just let us know by emailing us at pier54podcast@gmail.com.
We are Cal and Chip, and our podcast, of course, is the Fellas Podcast, and it is sponsored by new movie The Long Walk, only in cinemas from September 12th. Right, listen to this. You're on a road, no end in sight, 50 boys in a non-stop marathon where there can only be one winner, and the only rule, stop walking, you're done.
We just watched the trailer and brother, it's mad. Like, really scary.
It's called The Long Walk. Dystopian, ruthless, one road, no finish line. You either walk or you die. The cast is stacked. BAFTA rising star David Johnson, Cooper Hoffman, Mark Hamill, big performances.
How far could you go for your ticket to freedom? Could you go the distance?
Walk or die. One road, no finish line. Watch The Long Walk exclusively in cinemas September 12th.
LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I filed my return,
But I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
what do I do?
My refund, though.
I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.